Why, hello there. It's a glorious Thursday. It's a Thursday, nevertheless. It's January the 13th, and it's a glorious day. This is going to be the day where Biden took an L. Well, kind of. It's not the L I was expecting, but it's the L that I'm going to take. We got to cherish the wins when we get them, and acknowledge the fight's not over. Pretty sure most of you already know, but the Supreme Court blocks Biden's COVID vaccine mandates for businesses, but allows healthcare workers rule. And that's why I say it's not the win I was looking for, but it's the win I'm going to take, mainly because I'm not in the healthcare. But I do feel their pain. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked the Biden administration from enforcing the sweeping vaccine or test requirements for large private companies. But the conservative majority court allowed a vaccine mandate to stand for medical facilities that take Medicare and Medicaid payments. The OSHA mandate required that workers at businesses with 100 or more employees get the vaccine or submit a negative test weekly to enter the workplace. Now, I do think this part right here is discrimination, mainly because I think you should submit, regardless if you're vaccinated or not, COVID tests weekly. You cannot discriminate against someone based off of their health condition or lack of condition. I mean, everybody with common sense knows that if you're only tested the unvaccinated, but yet the virus still gets through, that means that you have to test everyone to ensure everyone's safety. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked the Biden administration from enforcing its sweeping vaccine or test requirement for large private companies, but allowed the vaccine mandate to stand for medical facilities that take Medicare or Medicaid payments. The ruling came 3 days after the Occupation Safety and Health Administration emergency measure for business started to take effect because they got the courts in California to rule in their favor when another court in another district put a halt onto it. It sucks, but that's the way that politics is played. The mandate required the workers at a business with 100 or more employees to get vaccinated or submit a negative test weekly to enter the workplace. It will also require unvaccinated workers to wear masks indoors at work. Although Congress has indisputably given OSHA the power to regulate occupational dangers, it has not given the agency the power to regulate public health and more broadly, the court wrote in an unsigned opinion, requiring the vaccination of 84 million people, or 84 Americans, selected simply because they work for an employee with more than 100 employees, certainly falls in the later category, the court wrote. Liberal Justices Stephen Breyer, Sona Sotomayor, and Elin Kagan dissented. Of course they would, writing that the majority has usurped the power of Congress and the President and OSHA without legal basis. But was there? I mean, could the President really enact this? I mean, there's a separation of state and federal. Now, I do know that there's been several cases that went to the Supreme Court saying that a state governor can implement the mandates. But there's never been one that's really on a federal level. Yes, I do know George Washington, the first president of the United States, made all of his soldiers get the smallpox or the chickenpox vaccine, but that was more on the federal level. As disease and death continued to mount, this court tells its agency that it cannot respond in the most effective way possible. Without legal basis, the court usurps its decision that rightfully belongs to others. It undercuts the capacity and the responsibility of responsible federal officials acting well within the scope of their authority to protect American workers from grave danger, they wrote. I mean, we do have therapeutics, even though as like a no-no here on YouTube. Well, screw YouTube. I'm not going to talk about the therapeutics, but there's many doctors that have mentioned that there's therapeutics to combat the symptoms. President Joe Biden said in a statement that the Supreme Court chose to block the requirements that are life savings for workers, but are they really? Is it really life savings? Biden calls on states and business to step up and voluntarily institute the vaccine requirements to protect workers, customers, and the broader community. The court has ruled that my administration cannot use the authority granted to it by Congress to require this measure, but it does not stop me from using my voice as president to advocate for employers to do the right thing to protect Americans' health and economy. Well, you could just open up the economy. That'll help the economy. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh called the court's decision a major setback for the health and safety of workers, vowing OSHA will use its existing authority to make sure businesses are protecting employees. The American Medical Association, one of the largest doctor groups in the nation, said it's deeply disappointed in the face of continuing evolving COVID-19 pandemic, or however you want to say it, that poses a serious danger to the health of our nation. The Supreme Court today halted one of the most effective tools in the fight against further transmission and death from this aggressive virus, AMA President Gerald Harman said. In a separate simultaneously released ruling of the administration, vaccination rules for healthcare workers to have 5-4 majority sided with Biden administration. I agree with the government that the Health and Human Services Secretary rules falls within the authorities that Congress has conferred upon him. So the majority writing that the rule fits neatly within the language of the statute. After all, ensuring providers take the steps to avoid transmitting a dangerous virus to their patients is consistent with the fundamental principle of the medical profession. First, do no harm. The majority opinion reads. Oh, interesting. Justice Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, the 4 of the 6 conservatives of the 9-seat bench, dissented. Now, I kind of wasn't too sure about her because it kind of sounds like she was on the fence and could go either way. I don't think the federal government is likely to be able to show that Congress has authorized the unprecedented step to compelling over 10 million healthcare workers to be vaccinated on the pain of being fired, Alito wrote in his dissent. Biden, in a statement, said that the vaccine requirement for healthcare workers will save lives of patients, doctors, and nurses, and will enforce it. So my question is, natural immunity going to be part of the vaccine, or is that no longer a thing? I do know that there's studies out there saying that natural immunity is garbage when it comes to COVID-19. I highly disagree with that, but I'm not a medical doctor or in the medical field to make a medical opinion towards it, other than the millions of years of evolution that gave us natural immunity. OSHA, which polices workplace safety for the Labor Department, issued a business mandate under the emergency power established by Congress. OSHA can shortcut the normal rulemaking process, in which can take years. If the Labor Secretary determined the new workplace safety standard is necessary to protect workers from grave danger. The court's decision to strike down the business mandate comes as a pandemic rages, but is it really rages, across the U.S. with highly contagious Omicron variant driving up the unprecedented surge of new infections. U.S. was reporting 786,000 new infections daily on the average, A pandemic record is 30% increase over last week, according to the CNBC analysts of data from Johns Hopkins University's. Hospitalizations also reach a pandemic high based off of federal data going back to the summer of 2020, where there are 149,000 Americans in hospitals with COVID, not for COVID, according to the 7-day average of data from the Department of Health and Human Services, up to 75 or 77% over the week. The vaccine or test will face a lawsuit from 27 states with the Republican attorneys general or governors, private businesses, religious groups, and national industry associations such as the National Retail Federation, the American Trucking Association, and the National Federation of Independent Business. All right, we're almost done with this one. The NRF, in a statement, called the Supreme Court ruling a victory, urging that the Biden administration to discard this unlawful mandate and instead work with employers, employees, and the public health experts on practical ways to increase vaccination rates and mitigate the spread of the virus in 2022. The mandates were mostly expansive use of power by the federal government to protect workers from COVID since the pandemic began. Taken together, the Biden administration estimates the rules for businesses, healthcare workers will apply to almost 100 million Americans. Both ruled that the influx well before the Supreme Court took them on. OSHA rules were blocked in November by conservative federal appeal courts, then reinstated by a different court weeks later because they were court shopping. The White House at the time urged businesses to follow public safety requirements, even if they're not being enforced. Some companies have done so, and others have implemented their own rules. A number of large employers, including Citigroup, Nike, and Columbia Sportswear, in recent days said that they would begin firing unvaccinated workers, which is a discrimination against health status. We're already seeing it. If you don't have your booster shot within a time period, you're going to be considered unvaccinated. And with therapeutics out there, natural immunity is out there. But if you don't have your booster shots, you're going to be considered unvaccinated, regardless if it's the first booster, second booster, third booster, up to whatever booster they decide to end the pandemic on. There's already language being adopted that if you don't have a shot within 6 months to 9 months, you're going to be considered unvaccinated. Even the Johnson & Johnson one shot is going to be called into question. You're going to be not considered vaccinated unless you get a booster shot. It's coming. This pandemic is not going to end until we, the people, say it's going to end. Talk to doctors about therapeutics, talk about different options, but we're not going to be able to vaccinate away this virus because it's the COVID virus. The COVID virus mutates quickly. It also can spread to different species, as it means it could go to a squirrel, to a rabbit, to a cat, to a dog, to a monkey, and then back to humans. Hypothetically speaking, that's what COVID viruses do. We're not going to get rid of COVID. We're just going to have to learn to live with it. With that being said, leave a comment down below. Are you celebrating this victory? Are you taking this partial win, even though healthcare workers still get the shaft? Or do you say that this was a wrong decision from the court? Or do you say, let's go, Brandon? Smash the like and subscribe button on any and all platforms, or just the platform you're currently watching. But most importantly, let's go, Brandon, and have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.